Some time ago, actually quite a while ago, I asked if you'd be interested in a video exploring why some folk at university have taken issue with me making content for YouTube. And you said yes. And I've been thinking carefully about how to approach it. And I think I know how to do it now. So here it is. Let me say up front, this isn't a simple story, and I've distilled it down into 5 things. 5 things about academic life, and these are general things, so not things about me, but there is one extra factor, which is about people like me. So here are those 5 things. Number 1, a confusion over what social media is. Number 2, a bit of reluctance to engage with the public. Number 3, some very weird social hierarchies. Number 4, a system of conflicted governance. And number 5, a backdraft blowing through academia from the corporate world. So those 5 things will form separate episodes. And I'm going to have 2 episodes on the reluctance to engage with the public, because that's a particularly complex one. So that's six episodes, plus this one, which is 7 episodes, and then that extra thing. The thing about people like me, and that's going to be episode 8. That one's really about critical psychology, which is part of the profession of psychology that's highly critical of psychology. In fact, you might as well insert of after critical. And as you might imagine, we aren't always that popular with other psychologists because of that. Now, all of these dynamics together have had real consequences for me, insofar as being asked to remove some of my videos from YouTube and to add disclaimers to others. It's pretty much affected all of my videos, but it's particularly affected the ones I make for my university teaching. I've wrestled with how to talk to you about it all, and I want to talk to you about it honestly, but also constructively. And I think I found a way. But this has been a difficult video to make, because I know that some folk at university have felt uneasy about certain videos I've made and may feel uneasy about this one. But I want to be really clear. I'm not criticizing any individual. I have no interest in casting aspersions or airing grievances in public. But as an academic, I do feel a responsibility to speak openly about issues that affect my profession and affect academia, especially those that have broader implications for how we teach, how we communicate, and how we engage with the world, particularly the world beyond university. The concerns I'm going to raise aren't about any person or persons that I may or may not have worked with or taught. That kind of engagement is pretty reductive, and I find that really unhelpful. What I am reflecting on are patterns that I've observed across various institutions, various countries, and various roles that I've had over more than 30 years that I've been working in the sector, from being a research assistant through to holding senior academic leadership roles. So this isn't about pointing fingers at individuals, either up the chain of command or down the chain of command. It's about examining structures and cultures that shape academic life. But I do want to say that I am lucky to be in a situation where I'm supported by my line manager and by those who lead the courses that my teaching feeds into. They're lovely people, and I value them very much. I've also felt supported by the students that I've had the privilege to teach. They've encouraged me to keep going, even when my attempts at being a YouTuber have been obviously clunky. Also, my university, the one that I'm working at just now, actually encourages academics to use social media platforms like YouTube. And I'm grateful for that. But actually, it's a bit of a problem, which I'll get to in part 2. So what the heck is this series about if I feel so supported? Well, universities have complex and conflicting layers of management that can lead to odd things happening. And this series is really about that. And here's an example of one of those odd things that's happened to me. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what critical social psychology is all about, and you'll see me doing a bit of this, and maybe a bit of this. Okay, critical social psychology. What is it? Let's split it into two parts. First, there's the critical, and one meaning of critical is of being disapproving.
Good luck. Right, Thomas, have you ever got a shirt back from the laundry where it's got too much starch in it? You know, like you literally can't put it on because it's like made of wood? That's what you were like. You were so stiff.
Is this gonna be a no? I'm sorry.
I mean, seriously?
Well, no, it's not that. Another way of defining critical is weighing up the pros and cons of an argument. You know, you weigh up an argument against a counter-argument.
What, people who use marijuana should be sent to jail.
But some people are prescribed marijuana for medical reasons, you know?
Or and people who use marijuana for non-medical reasons should be sent to jail.
Yeah, but some people use marijuana to tackle things like anxiety and depression, and if they think those things are like medical conditions, then they're kind of taking it for medical reasons.
Alright, people should be really careful when they use marijuana that they're not doing illegal stuff.
Yeah, well, that sounds fair enough, I suppose. So is it that? Well, it's kind of that, but not really that. As I briefly mentioned in a previous video, a previous episode, we are actually talking about critical thinking that's informed by critical theory. And critical theory is linked to the work of a bunch of people who sat around philosophizing ways to critique society and culture, especially in Europe and the US.
Well, I must say that I find the culture of this place dreadfully insipid.
And it's not as boring as it sounds. Okay,
These societies...
clearly I am a bit odd. That was a clip from one of my teaching videos on a unit I teach on critical psychology. There was something in that video that was felt to be so inappropriate that it had to be removed. When I said I wouldn't remove it, I was told I had to add a content warning to it. I'll tell you what the problem was at the end of this series. But of course, you can skip straight to it if you want. It'll be in episode 8. If you're watching this episode just after I've posted it, hang on for a few weeks as I'm filming this series over the next few weeks. If you subscribe and click notifications, you'll get a ping when episode 8 is published. The other way of spoiling it for yourself and for me is to go to that video, if you can find it, and look for the disclaimer that's added to the video. But if you can bear to wait and would like me to take you on the full journey to explain everything that sits behind the problem and then to reveal the problem at the end, well, buckle in, because here we go. I want to start by talking about academic freedom. In academia, we're trained to question accepted practices and challenge prevailing ideas. And that often means pointing out where others might be mistaken and working alongside colleagues who do the same to us. This isn't about conflict or constant disagreement. It's about engaging in thoughtful debate that's grounded in well-reasoned arguments. So we're not just slagging each other off. We're kind of engaged in meaningful debate with each other. And academic culture encourages us not only to critique others, but also to reflect on where we ourselves might be wrong. And that's why disagreement isn't something we avoid, it's something that we welcome. But academic freedom doesn't mean we simply yield to criticism. When our work is challenged, our responsibility is to defend it so that we can test the strength of that defense. If it doesn't hold, we revise our thinking. And this process is meant to happen without fear or favor. And that means we critique the work of others without worrying that they're going to retaliate against us. And we don't cling on to our own ideas in the pursuit of some reward. The integrity of academic debate depends on this freedom to question, to defend, and to change course when our ideas turn out to be flawed. And this academic freedom can make for an intellectually vibrant culture, and that culture is critical if you want academics to pursue new ideas, to challenge prevailing orthodoxies, and so on. And this is really the stuff that we should be doing. And it's also the thing that stops us from being complacent. It stops us from being dogmatic. It's the thing that helps us to reimagine how things might be better by always being critical of ourselves and engaging in critical debate with others. Now, all of this is a bit aspirational. We get this stuff wrong all the time. We're never perfect at this stuff, but it is seen as essential nonetheless, something we always have to aim for. Because if you don't have academic freedom, things start to stagnate. So all academics really have a responsibility to promote a culture which encourages critique and encourages people to try out new ways of doing things. But things can trouble all of this, which is what I'm going to lay out for you in this series. The main things I think that can cause us trouble and interfere with that academic culture. Now, let's lay that out just in a little bit of detail so you can see what's coming in this series. So in part 2, I'll talk about the ignorance of academics regarding social media platforms like YouTube. It's not to say they're stupid, but there's just a lot of misunderstanding about what these social media platforms are, what they're good at and what they aren't good at. In parts 3 and 4, I'll talk about the inherent snobbery in higher education towards the public. Because sometimes academia doesn't so much like talking to the public. In part 5, I'll talk about the weird hierarchy and fragile systems of authority that we have in higher education. And trust me, they're weird and wacky. In part 6, I'll talk about the tensions between governance, authority, and academic freedom. That sounds quite dry and boring, how I've said it there, but I think you might be interested in it. And in part 7, I'll talk about the backdraft blowing through higher education that comes from the corporate world. And in the final part, part 8, I'll talk about critical psychology and will reveal what it was about that clip I showed you that some people found so distasteful that they wanted me to remove it. So there's a lot of content. Have I overcooked this? Probably. But I wanted to use this opportunity to bring in what I think are some important points to make transparent some of the tensions that exist in the higher education system that folk like me and many of my colleagues regularly have to grapple with. So if you're still with me and you're ready for this, I'll see you in part 2, where I'll talk about how many academics are ignorant about social media. So till then, ta-da.